The Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City is the site of today's first ever NBA Draft Lottery. And hi again, everybody. I'm Pat O'Brien. Happy Mother's Day and welcome to a special edition of At the Half. Down below us there is the drum, center stage, where in just a few moments...
This is footage from the 1985 NBA Draft Lottery. 7 envelopes were randomly selected out of a drum spun by NBA Commissioner David Stern. Each team had an equal chance at the first overall pick.
As you can imagine, this is
with the New York Knicks eventually walking away as the winners of the first ever draft lottery.
And I don't think David Busher believes it yet. Well, maybe he does by now.
Since 1985, the draft lottery has gone through numerous changes. In the current system, the 7 teams that fail to make the playoffs in the Eastern and Western conferences are put into the lottery. For picks 1 through 4, teams are selected at random. The worse a team's record is, the higher their chance of being selected in the top 4, with the worst 3 teams in the NBA having a 14% chance at the top pick and a 52.1% chance of being in the top 4. After the top 4 picks are drawn, picks 5 through 30 are decided in descending order from the worst to best team record, meaning the furthest a team can fall in the lottery is 4 spots. Before 1985, the first pick was decided by a coin flip between the worst team in the Eastern and Western conferences. This led to the issue of teams tanking, or intentionally trying to lose games in order to receive a better position in the draft, and teams were competing to have the worst record in the league to receive the top pick. The draft lottery was instituted to disincentivize tanking, creating a system where teams didn't have to be the worst to receive a chance at the number 1 pick.
I would personally define tanking as when a team decides it is best served trying not to win today with hopes of getting better draft picks, better assets for tomorrow. There's 2 arguments for it. Some teams would argue that it's the best way to escape mediocrity and acquire the best possible draft asset. And some would argue that the fans are being cheated. And right there you see 2 very different ends of the spectrum on how it is defined.
But has the draft lottery curbed the issue of tanking? First, to understand tanking today, let's take a look at every team's record in the 25-26 NBA season. These are the 14 teams that missed the playoffs. As you can see, there is a clear divide between the bottom 8 teams and the rest of the league, 7 of which were alleged to have tanked this season, with the 3 worst teams having all-time bad seasons with win percentages of 24, 23, and 20%. Now, let's look at every team's record in the 83-84 season, which led to the creation of the draft lottery. The distribution of win percentages is more even, with the worst team, the Indiana Pacers, having a win percentage of 31.7, which would make them tied for only the 7th worst record in 2026.
We had 5 teams in this league after the All-Star break win 17% of their games or fewer. That's never happened in the NBA before. In this NBA, in this modern era, we've never seen so many teams do so much to do so little.
It's obvious that tanking is still extremely prevalent, but as new proposals are being made to fix the issue, it's important to understand how tanking affects the fan experience today.
Inside, and Williams throws it down. Halliburton's hurt right away when he fell. Of course, that strain, so much pain. And the Celtics call timeout, grabbing that right ankle.
Prior to the 2026 season, the Pacers and the Celtics were in very similar situations. After achieving massive playoff success, Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton, the Celtics and Pacers' best players, suffered Achilles tears.
This is one of those rare scenarios where the bad luck starts before the last season ends. So right out of the gate, before not even out of the gate, before you're even finished with the previous race, your entire season changes.
Both teams were expected to decline greatly, and a rebuild year where each team would tank for a high pick was in question for both teams. Yet despite this, the Celtics and the Pacers would go on to have very different seasons. The Celtics would go on to finish as the 2nd seed in the Eastern Conference with a 56-26 record. Meanwhile, the Pacers finished with the record of 19-63, the 2nd worst in the league.
The difference was 2-3, basically your 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in Boston all stayed healthy, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the Pacers did not. That's the key difference there.
By this point, it was clear that the Pacers would have a retool season, and their competitiveness began to drop off significantly, eventually getting fined $500,000 by the NBA for intentionally sitting players to lose games.
I think it's a combination of like seeing us lose every game that makes it less motivating to like tune in to what is going on with the Pacers, because I kind of already know the outcome, that they're going to like try to lose as many games as possible.
Due to a trade, the Pacers' first-round pick was protected 1 through 4, meaning that if it fell to 5th or 6th in the lottery, their pick would go to the Los Angeles Clippers. Meaning, after a season of losing, there was still a 47% chance the Pacers would lose their pick.
Yeah, so that high chance, like 47 point something percent chance that the Pacers are not going to get the pick, that's kind of difficult for me to like justify like continuing my interest in the team.
But I think there is I think so much value to winning in the NBA, to putting together, maintaining winning habits.
Tanking doesn't just affect one fan base, it affects the entire NBA. When multiple teams decide to bottom out, many regular season games, even just halfway through the season, begin to lose meaning. With stars sitting out and teams regularly winning in massive blowouts.
There were several games, I think, that they started sitting guys in mass. There were several second nights of back-to-backs where they would give Pascal Siakam or Aaron Nesmith or Andrew Nembhard or TJ McConnell, several of those guys, the night off. And if you go watch that game, you're like, well, what is this?
Despite criticism from league officials, NBA media, and fans alike, tanking still continues because, in short, it's the best way for teams to build a championship roster. Why would a team with no chance of winning it all compete for a mediocre record in an early playoff exit when they could just be bad for a short time, pick high in the draft, and be set up for serious championship contention in future years? To further disincentivize tanking, the NBA plans to introduce the 3-2-1 draft lottery system. In the 3-2-1 system, lottery balls would still be drawn to determine the top 4 picks, but the worst 3 teams would only have 2 lottery balls. Meanwhile, every other team in the lottery would have 3 lottery balls each, with the final 2 teams in the 16-team lottery with the best records having 1 lottery ball each. This system would drastically reduce the incentive for losing games and would make teams compete to avoid a bottom 3 record, but it would also give the worst teams lesser odds at a top pick and allow them to fall much further in the draft, with the worst team being able to fall to pick 12 now instead of pick 5.
At least the NBA has tried to get in front of it now going forward, assuming the 3-2-1 goes into play, and says, you know what, we as a league will give the appearance of telling our fans we're going to make sure every team is as competitive as it can be for all 82 games. It won't always work that way, but at least it will be better, and I think that's a really good start.
The difficult truth is that it is extremely hard to create a draft process that favors the worst teams without incentivizing losing, and therefore tanking. What was once a system designed to encourage competitiveness has now become the focal point of many teams' seasons as they race to the bottom. Either way, fans will suffer, due to non-competitive tanking seasons or from their team falling in a lottery that does not favor the worst teams. There is no perfect system and no way to satisfy every player, every team, or every fan, and instead a balance must be found between these things.